The rain hammered against the windows of Kensington Palace as William paced back and forth in his private study. His hands were clenched into fists, his jaw tight with barely contained anger. The ornate room, usually a place of calm and reflection, now felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Detective Inspector Sarah Matthews sat across from him, her weathered face grave as she clutched a manila folder containing evidence that would change everything. She had been investigating suspicious activities around the royal family for months, but what she had discovered went far beyond anything she could have imagined. "Your Royal Highness," she began carefully, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was about to reveal. "I know this is difficult to hear, but the evidence is overwhelming. Lady Victoria Pemberton has been systematically gathering information about the Princess of Wales for the past 18 months. William stopped pacing abruptly, his blue eyes flashing with fury. "What kind of information?" he demanded, his voice low and dangerous. Matthews opened the folder and spread several photographs across the mahogany desk. They showed an elegant woman with dark hair and piercing green eyes, always dressed impeccably, always smiling. But there was something cold about her smile, something calculated in her eyes that made William's skin crawl. "She's been photographing Kate's daily routines, noting her schedules, recording conversations through hidden devices," Matthews continued. "We found listening equipment in 3 different locations where the princess regularly visits. The woman has been building a comprehensive profile of your wife's life." The blood drained from William's face as he picked up one of the photographs. It showed Victoria at a charity event, standing just meters away from Kate. Her phone pointed directly at the princess. The timestamp showed it was taken just 2 weeks ago. "How long has this been going on?" William's voice was barely above a whisper, but Matthews could hear the rage building beneath the surface. "Based on our investigation, at least 18 months, maybe longer." Matthews pulled out another set of documents. "She's been using her position in high society to gain access to events where the princess would be present. Lady Pemberton comes from old money, has connections everywhere. No one suspected anything because she seemed to belong in those circles." William slammed his fist on the desk, making the photographs scatter. "And you're just telling me this now?" "Sir, we had to be absolutely certain. Accusations against someone of Lady Pemberton's standing require solid evidence. We couldn't move until we had proof that would stand up in court." Matthews remained calm, understanding his anger but knowing she had followed proper procedure. The detective pulled out a small recording device and placed it on the desk. This was found in her handbag during a routine security check at a recent charity gala. She was carrying sophisticated surveillance equipment. As Matthews played the recording, Victoria's cultured voice filled the room. She was speaking to someone on the phone, her tone clinical and detached as she described Kate's movements in detail. "She always leaves through the east entrance at exactly 3:15. Security is lighter there. The nanny brings the children out through the garden gate every Tuesday and Thursday." William's face went white as he heard his children mentioned. His protective instincts kicked in with full force, and for a moment, Matthews thought he might actually punch something. "She's been watching my children?" The question came out as a growl, and Matthews nodded grimly. "There's more, sir. We believe she's been selling this information to tabloid journalists. We've traced payments from 3 different media outlets to accounts linked to her. Substantial payments." The revelation hit William like a physical blow. For months, the family had been plagued by eerily accurate tabloid stories about their private lives. Stories that seemed to come from someone with intimate knowledge of their routines and habits. Now, it all made sense. "The story about Kate's private doctor's appointment," William said, his voice hollow. "The article about the children's school pickup times. The photographs taken from that exact angle of our private garden. All traced back to information that Lady Pemberton would have had access to," Matthews confirmed. "She's been incredibly clever about it, using different journalists, different publications, making it look like coincidence rather than a coordinated effort." William walked to the window and stared out at the gray London sky. His mind was racing, trying to process the full implications of what he was hearing. Someone had been stalking his wife and children, turning their private lives into a commodity to be sold to the highest bidder. "There's something else," Matthews said quietly. Something that concerns us even more than the surveillance and the media leaks. William turned back to face her, his expression grim. What else could there possibly be? Matthews pulled out a final set of documents, these ones marked with official security stamps. We've discovered that Lady Pemberton has been asking very specific questions about the princess's security protocols. Not just her schedule, but details about her protection arrangements, her safe rooms, her emergency procedures. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. William felt a chill run down his spine that had nothing to do with the weather outside. You think she's planning something beyond just selling stories to the press? He said, his voice barely audible. We can't rule it out, sir. The level of detail she's been gathering goes far beyond what any journalist would need. She's been mapping vulnerabilities in the princess's security, looking for gaps in protection. William's hands began to shake with rage. The thought that someone had been studying his wife like a predator studies prey filled him with a fury unlike anything he had ever experienced. Kate was not just his wife. She was the mother of his children, the future Queen of England. She was beloved by millions of people around the world, and the idea that someone would want to harm her was incomprehensible. Where is she now? He asked, his voice deadly calm. Under surveillance. We haven't arrested her yet because we want to see if she leads us to any accomplices. But sir, with your permission, we'd like to move forward with formal charges within the next 48 hours. William nodded curtly. Do it. And I want her kept as far away from Kate as possible. Cancel any events where she might be present. Review the guest lists for everything Kate has planned for the next month. Already in progress, sir. We've also increased security around the princess and the children as a precautionary measure. As Matthews gathered her files and prepared to leave, William stopped her with a question that had been burning in his mind since the moment she had started talking. Why Kate? Why target her specifically? Matthews paused at the door, her expression troubled. That's what worries us most, sir. We still don't know her ultimate motivation. Lady Pemberton has no obvious grudge against the royal family, no political agenda that we can identify. Her background check came back clean. Whatever her reasons, she's kept them very well hidden. After Matthews left, William remained in his study for a long time, staring at the scattered photographs of Victoria Pemberton. The woman looked so normal, so harmless. She could have been any of the hundreds of people who attended royal events each year, blending seamlessly into the crowd of wealthy socialites and charity supporters. But beneath that polished exterior was someone who had been systematically violating his family's privacy, putting his wife and children at risk for reasons that remained a mystery. The thought made his blood boil. He picked up his phone and dialed Kate's private number. When she answered, her voice was warm and cheerful, completely unaware of the storm that was about to break over their lives. William, how was your meeting? Kate, I need you to come home immediately. Cancel whatever you're doing and come straight back to Kensington Palace. The urgency in his voice must have alarmed her because her tone changed instantly. What's wrong? Are the children okay? The children are fine. But we need to talk. There's something you need to know. And I want to tell you in person. As he hung up the phone, William made a silent promise to himself and to his family. Whatever Victoria Pemberton's game was, whatever she was planning, he would not let her hurt the people he loved most in the world. The gloves were off now, and he would use every resource at his disposal to protect Kate and their children. The storm outside was growing stronger, but it was nothing compared to the fury building inside the future King of England. Victoria Pemberton had made the mistake of threatening his family, and she was about to learn exactly what that meant. Kate arrived at Kensington Palace 20 minutes later, her face flushed from the cold rain and etched with concern. She had cancelled an important charity meeting and driven herself back through London traffic, her mind racing with possibilities about what could have prompted William's urgent call. She found him in his study, standing by the fireplace with his back to the door. The tension in his shoulders was visible even through his perfectly tailored suit, and Kate knew immediately that whatever he was about to tell her was serious. William, she said softly, closing the door behind her. You're scaring me. What's happened? When he turned to face her, Kate was shocked by the fury in his eyes. She had seen him angry before, but this was different. This was the cold, controlled rage of a man who was barely keeping himself in check. Sit down, he said, his voice tight. Please. Kate perched on the edge of the sofa, her hands clasped in her lap. William moved to the desk and picked up the manila folder that Detective Inspector Matthews had left behind. Do you know a woman named Lady Victoria Pemberton? He asked. Kate frowned, searching her memory. The name sounds familiar. Dark hair? Very elegant? I think she's been at several charity events I've attended. Why? Because she's been stalking you. The words hit Kate like a physical blow. She stared at William, certain she had misheard him. I'm sorry. What? William sat down across from her and opened the folder. One by one, he showed her the photographs, the surveillance equipment, the recorded conversations. With each piece of evidence, Kate's face grew paler. She's been watching you for at least 18 months, William explained, his voice carefully controlled. Recording your conversations, photographing your movements, selling information about our family to tabloid journalists. Kate's hand flew to her mouth as the implications began to sink in. The stories, she whispered. The ones that seemed to know things that only someone close to us could know. All of them. Every invasion of our privacy, every violation of our children's safety, it all comes back to her. Kate stood up abruptly and walked to the window, her arms wrapped around herself as if she were cold. But why? I don't understand why someone would do this. That's what we don't know yet. The police are still investigating her motives. Kate turned back to face him, and William could see the fear in her eyes now, mixed with anger. You said she's been watching the children too? William nodded grimly. She knows their routines, their school schedules, when and where they play outside. Kate, she's been mapping our entire lives. The color drained completely from Kate's face. As a mother, the thought of someone stalking her children was her worst nightmare. Where is she now? Has she been arrested? Oh, she's under surveillance, but they haven't moved yet. The police want to make sure they catch anyone else who might be involved. Kate began to pace, her mind racing. How long have the police known about this? How long have they been watching her watch us? A few months. They had to build a solid case before they could tell us. A few months? Kate's voice rose sharply. They've known for months that someone was stalking our children and they didn't tell us? William could see his wife's famous composure beginning to crack. Kate was usually the calm one, the one who could handle any crisis with grace and dignity. But when it came to threats against their children, she was as fierce as any mother protecting her young. They had to follow proper procedures, William said, though he could hear how inadequate the explanation sounded. Proper procedures? Kate's laugh was bitter. William, this woman could have hurt our children. She could have sold information to someone dangerous. Someone who wanted to kidnap them, or worse. The thought made William's jaw clench even tighter. I know. Believe me, I know. Kate sat back down, her hands shaking slightly as she picked up one of the photographs. It showed Victoria at a charity luncheon, standing just a few feet away from Kate, her phone held at an angle that would have captured Kate's conversation with the event organizers. I remember this day, Kate said quietly. I remember talking to her briefly. She seemed so nice, so genuinely interested in the charity's work. I even gave her my personal card so she could contact me about getting more involved. William felt his blood run cold. You gave her your personal contact information? It's not the first time I've done that with someone who seemed passionate about charitable work. But now, Kate's voice trailed off as the full implications hit her. She's probably been using that to track my movements even more closely. William reached for his phone. I'm calling security to have all your contact information changed immediately. As William made the call, Kate continued to study the photographs and documents. Something about the whole situation felt wrong to her, beyond the obvious violation of their privacy. William, she said slowly, look at these pictures again. Really look at them. William finished his call and joined her on the sofa. What am I looking for? The angles, the positioning. She's not just randomly taking pictures or gathering information. She's being very strategic about what she's documenting. Kate spread the photographs out in chronological order. Look. Here she's photographing the entrances I use most frequently. Here she's documenting the timing of security rotations. And this one, Kate held up a picture that showed Victoria apparently chatting with other guests while actually photographing Kate's bodyguard. She's studying our protection details. William studied the images with new eyes and felt a chill run down his spine. You think she's planning something specific? I think she's planning something that requires knowing exactly how to get to me when I'm most vulnerable. The realization hung between them like a dark cloud. This wasn't just about selling stories to tabloids or violating their privacy. Someone was systematically studying Kate's life with the precision of a predator planning an attack. William's phone rang, and he answered it immediately when he saw it was Detective Inspector Matthews. "Sir, we have a problem," Matthews said without preamble. "Lady Pemberton has disappeared." "What do you mean disappeared?" "Our surveillance team lost her an hour ago. She left her apartment building through a service entrance we weren't monitoring and vanished. We're checking traffic cameras and have alerts out, but so far nothing." William felt his world tilt. "How is that possible? I thought you had her under constant watch." "We did, sir. But she's clearly more sophisticated than we gave her credit for. She must have spotted our surveillance and planned her escape route in advance." Kate had been listening to the conversation, and William could see the fear in her eyes turn to panic. "She knows we're onto her," Kate whispered. "If she's running, it means she was planning to do something soon." William relayed Kate's observation to Matthews, who confirmed their worst fears. "The princess is right, sir. People only run when they're about to act or when they feel cornered. Either way, we have to assume Lady Pemberton represents an immediate threat." "What are you doing to find her?" "Everything we can, sir. But I need to recommend that the princess and the children be moved to a secure location immediately. If Lady Pemberton was planning something for today or tomorrow, she might accelerate her timeline now that she knows we're watching." William looked at Kate, who had gone very pale, but was nodding her agreement. "Do it," he told Matthews. "We'll follow whatever security protocols you recommend." After he hung up, Kate stood up and walked to the family photographs on the mantelpiece, pictures of their children laughing and playing, completely innocent and unaware that someone had been watching them, studying them, planning something terrible. "I want to know why," Kate said, her voice steady but determined. "I want to know what we did to make her hate us so much that she would threaten our children." William joined her by the fireplace, putting his arm around her shoulders. "Maybe it's not about hate. Maybe it's about money, or fame, or mental illness. Maybe there is no rational reason." Kate leaned into him, drawing strength from his presence. "Whatever her reason, she's made a terrible mistake. She's threatened our children, William. She's threatened our family. I know. I want her found. I want her stopped. And I want to make sure she never gets close to any of us again." The steel in Kate's voice reminded William why he had fallen in love with her in the first place. Beneath her gentle exterior was a core of iron, a strength that emerged when the people she loved were threatened. "She'll be found," William promised. "And when she is, she'll face the full consequences of what she's done." Charony. Outside, the storm was reaching its peak, with wind howling around the palace walls and rain lashing against the windows. But inside that warm, secure room, two parents were preparing for a battle they had never wanted to fight, against an enemy whose motives they didn't understand but whose threat they took very seriously indeed. In a few hours, their children would come home from school, expecting hugs and homework help and stories before bed. Instead, they would find their parents packing bags for an unplanned trip to a secure location, their normal lives disrupted by the actions of a woman who had been watching them from the shadows. The hunt for Victoria Pemberton was about to begin in earnest, and William was determined that it would end with justice for his family and safety for the people he loved most in the world. 3 days later, Detective Inspector Matthews stood in the abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of London, staring at what could only be described as a shrine to obsession. The walls were covered with hundreds of photographs of Kate, timeline charts of her daily activities, and detailed floor plans of every building she regularly visited. "My God," whispered Sergeant Collins, Matthews' partner. "She's completely mad." Matthews nodded grimly as she examined the evidence that would finally answer the question that had been haunting everyone involved in the case. Why had Victoria Pemberton targeted the Princess of Wales? The breakthrough had come when police traced Victoria's credit card purchases to a small electronics shop in Camden. The shop owner remembered her because she had bought an unusual amount of surveillance equipment over several months, always paying cash but using her credit card for small items to avoid suspicion. From there, they had followed a trail of rental agreements and utility payments to this warehouse, registered under a false name but connected to Victoria through a complex web of shell companies and forged documents. The warehouse told the complete story of Victoria's obsession, and it was more disturbing than anyone had imagined. In the center of the main room was a desk covered with journals, each one filled with Victoria's increasingly erratic handwriting. Matthews picked up the most recent journal and began to read, her stomach turning with each page. Victoria hadn't been stalking Kate for money or political reasons, or even simple hatred. She had been stalking her because, in her twisted mind, she believed they were meant to be friends. Best friends, sisters, even. The journal entries revealed a woman who had become completely detached from reality, living in a fantasy world where she and Kate had a deep, meaningful relationship that existed only in Victoria's imagination. She thinks Kate has been sending her secret messages, Matthews said to Collins as she read. Look at this entry from last month. She writes about how Kate wore a blue dress to a charity event specifically to communicate with her, because blue was Victoria's favorite color. Collins peered over her shoulder at the journal. And this bit here, about how Kate looked directly at her during a speech and smiled, and Victoria interpreted that as Kate telling her to, be patient, our time will come soon. Matthews turned the pages, watching Victoria's mental state deteriorate with each entry. The early journals were merely obsessive, filled with detailed observations about Kate's appearance and behavior. But as time went on, the writing became more frantic, more delusional. Victoria had convinced herself that Kate was trapped in her royal life, that she was unhappy and needed rescuing. And Victoria, in her delusion, believed she was the one chosen to save her. Listen to this, Matthews read aloud from a journal dated just 2 weeks ago. Kate looked so sad today at the hospital opening. I could see in her eyes that she was calling out to me, begging me to help her escape from that prison of duty and protocol. William doesn't understand her like I do. Soon, I'll be able to show her that there's another way to live. The implications were chilling. Victoria hadn't been planning to hurt Kate. She had been planning to rescue her. In her twisted logic, she believed Kate would be grateful to be kidnapped, that she would thank Victoria for freeing her from her royal responsibilities. Collins discovered another disturbing element of Victoria's plan when he found a second room in the warehouse that had been set up like a luxury apartment, complete with expensive furniture, designer clothes in Kate's size, and even photographs of the two women digitally manipulated to show them together in various locations around the world. She's created an entire fantasy life for the two of them, Collins called out. Look at this. She's even got travel brochures for places she planned to take Kate after the kidnapping. Matthews joined him in the room and felt sick to her stomach. Victoria had planned every detail of Kate's captivity. But in her mind, it wasn't captivity at all. It was liberation. She had prepared a comfortable prison, convinced that Kate would eventually understand and appreciate what Victoria was trying to do for her. The most disturbing discovery came when Matthews found Victoria's detailed escape plan. She had been planning to take Kate during a public event, using her knowledge of security protocols to identify the perfect moment when Kate would be vulnerable. From there, they would disappear together to a remote location, where Victoria believed they could finally build the friendship she had been fantasizing about. We need to find her before she puts this plan into action, Matthews said grimly. If she's desperate enough to run, she might try to accelerate her timeline. The answer came sooner than expected. Matthew's phone rang, and the voice on the other end belonged to one of the officers monitoring royal events. Detective Inspector. We have a problem. Lady Victoria Pemberton has been spotted at the Children's Hospital Charity Gala, the one the princess is attending tonight. 1. Matthews felt her blood run cold. Are you certain it's her? Positive ID from our surveillance team. She's wearing a disguise, but facial recognition software picked her up entering the building 20 minutes ago. Where's the princess now? Still inside, unaware of the situation. Security has been alerted, but they're trying not to cause a scene. The event is being broadcast live on television. Matthews was already running toward her car, Collins close behind. Tell them to get the princess out of there immediately. I don't care about the cameras or the publicity. Victoria Pemberton is mentally unstable and extremely dangerous. The drive to the hospital took 12 agonizing minutes through London traffic. Matthew's mind raced as she thought about Victoria's journal entries, her detailed plans, her complete detachment from reality. A woman that delusional was capable of anything, especially if she felt cornered. When they arrived at the hospital, the scene was controlled chaos. Guests were being quietly evacuated while security teams swept the building. Matthews found the incident commander and got a quick briefing. The princess has been moved to a secure room on the 3rd floor, he reported. Prince William is with her. Lady Pemberton was last seen on the 2nd floor, near the children's ward. What was she doing near the children's ward? Unknown, but witnesses say she seemed agitated, muttering to herself and checking her phone repeatedly. Matthews felt a new chill of fear. If Victoria's delusion extended to Kate's children, if she believed they were somehow part of the fantasy she had created, then the situation was even more dangerous than they had realized. I need to speak to the princess and Prince William immediately, Matthews said. They need to understand exactly what kind of person they're dealing with. Matthews found William and Kate in a small conference room that had been converted into a temporary command center. William was pacing again, his face dark with fury, while Kate sat at a table reviewing security footage on a laptop. Have you found her? William demanded the moment Matthews walked in. She's still in the building, but we're closing in. However, there's something you both need to know about why she's been targeting you. Matthews quickly explained what they had discovered in the warehouse, watching as the color drained from Kate's face with each detail. She thinks we're friends? Kate said incredulously. She thinks I want to be kidnapped? In her mind, you've been communicating with her through your public appearances, sending her signals that you need to be rescued from your royal life. William slammed his fist on the table. She's completely insane. Yes, she is. And that makes her unpredictable and extremely dangerous. Someone in her mental state might do anything if she feels her fantasy is being threatened. Kate stood up suddenly, her expression determined. I want to talk to her. Absolutely not, William said immediately. William, think about it. If she believes we have some kind of relationship, if she thinks I've been sending her messages, then maybe I can talk her down. Maybe I can convince her to surrender without anyone getting hurt. Matthews shook her head. Your Royal Highness, with respect, that's far too dangerous. We have trained negotiators who can handle this situation. But they don't have what she wants, Kate pointed out. She wants to talk to me. This whole thing has been about trying to get my attention, trying to create a connection with me. Maybe the only way to end this safely is to give her what she wants, but on our terms. Before anyone could object further, Matthews's radio crackled to life. We've located the subject. 3rd floor, East Wing. She's in the children's playroom, and she appears to be waiting for something. The blood drained from everyone's faces. Victoria had positioned herself in a room where sick children came to play and recover, surrounded by innocent young patients who had nothing to do with her obsession but who could become victims if the situation escalated. Get me a communication line to that room, Matthews ordered. We need to establish contact before this gets any worse. As the technical team worked to set up communication equipment, Kate moved to the window and looked out at the crowds of media gathered outside the hospital. The story was already spreading across social media and television news. By morning, the entire world would know that someone had been stalking the future Queen of England. But Kate wasn't thinking about the publicity or the embarrassment. She was thinking about the sick children 3 floors below them, and about a deeply disturbed woman who believed that kidnapping was an act of friendship. I'm going to talk to her, Kate said quietly, her voice filled with resolve. Not face to face, not in person, but over the radio, or whatever communication system you set up. She wants to hear from me, and maybe that's the key to ending this without anyone getting hurt. William started to object, but Kate cut him off. William, this isn't about being brave or taking unnecessary risks. This is about using the one advantage we have. She's obsessed with me, which means she might actually listen to me. Matthews considered this for a moment. It might work. If we can establish voice communication, and you can keep her talking, it might give our tactical team time to get into position. Then let's do it, Kate said firmly. Let's bring Victoria Pemberton's fantasy to an end. Outside the hospital, the storm that had been building all week finally broke, with thunder rolling across London and lightning illuminating the night sky. It seemed fitting somehow, as if the weather itself was reflecting the drama playing out inside the building. In a few minutes, Kate would find herself in direct communication with the woman who had been stalking her family for over a year. And somewhere in that conversation, in those crucial moments between two women who had never actually met but who were forever connected by obsession and circumstance, the fate of everyone in that hospital would be decided. The hunt for Victoria Pemberton was about to reach its climax, and Kate was determined to end it on her own terms. With her voice as her only weapon against a dangerous delusion that had consumed an unstable mind and threatened everything she held dear.